Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Evolution Podcast, where we sit down with leaders in the coaching and training industry who are evolving their client impact and business in the era of AI. I'm your host, Ethan Schroer, the CEO and founder of Evolvance. And today we have a guest who emphasizes the importance of bringing a technological background in systems thinking to coaching and training. His name is Ryan McConky. Ryan is a veteran. He has spent years as a chief innovation officer, and he has 35 plus years of experience in fire, EMS, and law enforcement backing. And this backs his current role as the owner of the Strategic Emergency Training and Consulting Company, which is dedicated to providing the highest level of certification, training, and consulting services to EMS agencies nationwide. Ryan, it's great to have you, and thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
So just a little bit about your background that I'd like to touch on before we jump into the episode. Before starting SETC, you built a data center in London. You worked for Fortune 100 and 1,000 companies, and so you bring together this unique blend of operational expertise and advanced technical acumen into your current venture with SETC. And since coming to SETC, it seems you've really leveraged AI and that technical background to increase your business efficiency. But before we dive into the episode today of how technical leadership drives coaching and training success, could you walk us a bit through your background and your journey that led you to starting SETC?
Yes. So as you mentioned, I've got a long career in the technology space. Worked with small businesses all the way to Fortune 100 companies. So quite a vast different of experience, public companies, private companies, and things like that. As you mentioned, I've been a volunteer firefighter and I've worked in EMS and these other fields. So I have a passion for life-saving and a passion for training other people in life-saving. So a number of years ago, I was actually working for my business partner's other company that does event medical work. We were doing standbys at events, everything from the World Martial Arts Tournament to rodeos to motocross. And he approached me and asked me if I wanted to help him start a training division. I said, sure, how hard can that be? So we started down that path. We were actually teaching, at the time it was called ASHI, it's now Health and Safety Institute. In an instructor class, it was in a January. We're in upstate New York, so it was a blizzard. And the instructors came in and we ran a class in the basement of a dive shop in their little classroom. And that's kind of how the company started. After about 6 to 8 months, it got legs, and the other owner said, hey, I want to spin this off into its own company to give you ownership stake because of all the effort that you put in. So in the middle of the pandemic, we incorporated because why not?
Perfect timing.
Yes. So we started the business in June of 2020. We found a building relatively quickly because renting hotel space was challenging, expensive. Let's get our own space and let's make the space pay for itself. So November of that year, we actually moved into our current location where we are here in New York. And from there, things sort of took off. We started doing work with the American Red Cross. We started doing American Heart work, and then it just sort of grew from there. So, fast forward 5 years later, and or 6 years later now, actually. And basically, we have about 40 contractors in about 20 states. We do contract work for some very large companies, as well as expanding our own offerings into OSHA, MSHA, and other health and safety avenues.
Wow. I mean, just a lot of experience and a lot of different things that are going on within what SETC provides. And it seems like the path to getting where you are now is extensive, as is the offerings that you're providing for the clients of SETC. So I was just kind of curious if you could give our listeners just a holistic overview of some of the specific services that SETC offers. Maybe there's somebody that's on here who wants your guys' service or is just more curious what the coaching and training that you provide looks like on the ground and or online. That overview would be great.
So again, the basic that we started out doing was CPR, AED, first aid training, basic life support for healthcare. We do have a lifeguarding instructor, so we do lifeguarding and water safety classes. And then it sort of evolved because most of us have been in the medical field. The other owners are paramedic. So we started working towards EMS agencies, fire departments, bringing them on board. We have a number of agencies that actually their instructors work under us. We're their training site. And then we just continue to evolve. So every year we want to add some new training avenue, some new product line to diversify. CPR training is like tires. Everybody's going to need it. Healthcare needs it. But the margins keep shrinking because costs keep going up. So we really started looking into the consulting space and things like OSHA, MSHA, health and safety consulting, hazmat consulting. So we added that product line this year. And in addition, we went with a subscription model. So we can do one-off inspections, but a number of our clients like the subscription model because we're an extension of their EHS team. And we can go in, they get training as part of that subscription model. We do health and safety inspections, OSHA audits, paperwork filing, those types of things. As far as some of the other consulting avenues that we do, because of my background in HIPAA and IT security, we can work with especially EMS agencies, making sure they're HIPAA compliant, making sure they're meeting the OCR rules and the high-tech rules, and other things like revenue recovery, recruiting and retention, those types of things.
Gotcha. It makes sense. Yeah. So holistic combination of, becoming certified to do certain things, but also upskilling people in ways that are going to benefit the value that they're driving for their end clients and ultimately, saving lives in lots of cases. So it's great stuff. We're super excited to have you here. Now to dive a little bit more specifically into the episode content. And again, the episode we're talking about today, the topic of how technical leadership drives coaching and training success. And as you discussed in your background, you've got all of this technical expertise, right? Roles as CIO, et cetera, that you've brought into this business to not just deliver client impact, but to run the business in a way where you can focus on client impact and drive business value. So the first topic that I think is great to dive into is just very holistically, like doing more with less. It seems to me, based on my conversations with you last week as well, that SETC has a pretty lean team. And with the work being so client-facing, the goal is to reduce the amount of time and spend that happens on the back end so that the focus can be on driving client value, right? So I guess if you could just touch on like somewhere between 1 and 3, depending on how in-depth it is, of the main ways where you think you've been able to jump in and leverage AI and technology to improve the focus on clients.
So yes, as you mentioned, right, most small businesses are very lean. It's usually a couple of owners. You're scrappy. You're doing all the roles. You're talking to clients. You're doing payroll. You're doing all of the back end stuff. A lot of the stuff that nobody sees but has to get done. But at the end of the day, there's only so much time, right? And business owners don't want to be working 7 days a week, 24/7. So we started looking at ways to leverage AI and technology to solve that. Some of that are the accounting platforms that we use with some AI built in. Some of that is, reporting through Power BI and using Copilot to build dashboards. We started out initially, I think as many people did many years ago when ChatGPT and some of these tools came out, they were more generative. We're going to make some logos. We're going to generate some graphics, some marketing collateral. We're going to clean up some marketing language, things like that. And that was sort of the extent. It was at least helping us on the creative side because, to be honest, I'm not very creative and artistic. Neither is the other owner, and Fiverr.
Selling yourself short. Right?
Fiverr only goes so far, so we started using the tool for that. I think as many people did because it was new. Because of my background, and especially with the healthcare company and the work that I was doing, it was big in healthcare as well. Of course, a lot of the concern was around security, EPHI getting leaked, and all of those kinds of things. So as we've evolved with this, some of the things we've started doing is automation, using some of the tools within the Microsoft platform and outside of that to automate workflows, to automate reporting. We use a form system for paperwork submission and to automate, how that gets into the invoicing system and things like that. And then I've taken it a step further recently because we've been using different platforms. And as most small business owners do, we want to save money. So if I can find a platform that's free, I'm going to use it before I pay for something, unless it's the right platform. Many of these free platforms are starting to shrink their footprint to the point that I can see the path we're eventually going to have to pay for this. The challenge with some of these platforms is we're using 20% of the functionality, we're using some of the functionality, we like this, but we don't like that. So because of my background, recently I started using Claude AI and Claude Code to start building our own scheduling system and our own CRM that's tailored to the training business.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a big topic right now, right? Like there's all of these different tools and platforms that you have the opportunity to integrate, and like there is this solution that's kind of growing, which is like leveraging things like Claude in order to build it internally. It's definitely something that we enjoy talking about with our clients and view as a growing path to solutions, right? It's not all encompassing and all powerful, right? There are very strong tools out there across the board. But yeah, there's a lot of change happening there. And perhaps that's something we'll touch on a little bit later. But I guess one thing connected to what you were just saying that comes to mind is I was wondering if you could speak like as tangibly as possible to like the before and after of implementing this AI and implementing these tech systems into your processes, and what kind of that has looked like in terms of whether it's freed dollars or freed time. What was that kind of evolution that occurred for your business as you started taking on?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the time. As we mentioned, the business is almost like a second full-time job for me. I have a day job, so my time is limited during the day. So my time is weekends, it's nights, it's things like that. And there's only so much I can do. The other owner is full-time during the day, but again, he has to have a social life. So the biggest focus was how do we do more with less? How do we free up my time? Because also, if I'm doing a lot of this back-end work, I'm not client-facing. I'm not generating
Yep.
the connections. I'm not building the business and growing it. So again, a lot of this automation, the payroll system automation, marketing emails. One of the big things that we were doing recently was after every class, the other owner was downloading a list of email addresses, typing out a form email. What did you think of the class? Go give us Google reviews. And then we would get sidetracked. Well, did we email this group or not? Did this happen? Did we get this out? I forgot, I was busy. So we've automated that, right? We can actually
Yeah.
extract a list of users and have the automation just send out these emails. And
Hmm.
that saved a lot of time. And it seems silly, but when you're doing 20, 30 classes, 40 classes a month, it's a lot of emails and hours of time. So that's one way that we freed up time. Now he's not sitting typing emails over and over again and sending it out.
Yeah.
Some other examples, again, like the coding. When I started looking at this, we could have hired somebody, or I could have just spent time writing code and figuring it out. I am not a programmer. I can shell script. I've done command line. I can read code, but I just can't create it from scratch. So this probably would have taken me upwards of a year to build something like this. And to be able to
Wow.
go into the system and understand the basics and say, hey, I want a system that can do this, this, and this, and the code pops up. It saved me months and months of time so that I can get this thing built, get it in place, and then move on to the next thing. So a couple of
Yeah.
examples there.
Wow. Yeah. No, that's impressive. And I think when you put it into perspective like that, of like, if I were to go and build this with code from the ground up and, do the learning, even as somebody with technological background, right? Like you're looking at a year for, a relatively, small business in the grand scheme of massive companies that are out there. So it only speaks volumes to, one, what needs to be done and the expertise that's needed to get to that point of full automation. But two, how powerful some of these tools are and what the opportunity is to build at least something to fix, as many of these little like bullet holes where people are just bleeding out, in things like emails and responses and upkeep and all these very basic rudimentary tasks. So yeah, that speaks volumes. I think one thing that I think you've made like increasingly clear is that the benefits of operating a business in a way that leverages AI is going to be something that's impactful across the board. And because of that, it's going to differentiate the businesses that are using it versus not using it. So I guess I'm kind of curious where you see the future of kind of competition in the coaching and training industry going in terms of how AI adoption is going to end up differentiating companies and their value proposition.
I think again, for many of these companies, there are some large ones, but for most of these companies, they're small business. They're a single proprietor. They are, a couple of partners like we are. And even if we get to a point where this grows and I can do this full time, there's still only two of us, and we want to have a family life and a social life. So I see it as a force multiplier. I see it as being able to do a lot of automation, to be able to do a lot of these tasks where I don't have to. Another example is social media posting, right? writing all these media posts and trying to get them scheduled and remembering to do it when I can have a tool that can literally build the content that we're looking for, schedule the posts, manage all the different platforms that are out there, Instagram and Facebook and Reddit and all of these platforms. And I don't have to go into each one and copy and paste the same content and just things like that, so that again, I don't have to hire staff or I don't have to work twice as hard to do this kind of work. I think companies that leverage AI are going to benefit because they're going to be able to do more with less, and they're going to be able to do it more efficiently. And again, free up that owner's time to cultivate client relationships in business.
Yeah, yeah. No, totally agree. One of the things that I'm still thinking about, and I'd be curious your thoughts on, right, is, imagine everybody starts adopting AI right now and becomes, twice as efficient, which is, an understatement of what the capability is in the grand scheme. Realistically, it's probably between like 4 and 10, multiplier if you, did some of the main tasks at hand right now. And I wonder, like, are prices going to come down for these services? And ultimately what ends up happening is a kind of a competition in terms of like, hey, if you didn't adopt, you're not going to be able to compete in the market because one, your ability to focus on your client with that extra time is less good, but also people have been able to bring their costs down with these efficiencies. Have you considered this at all, like as things progress and other companies catch up to kind of the state that you guys are in right now?
Right, because at some point people are going to catch up and the playing field's going to be leveled, and then it's like, okay, now what, right? How do we continue to advance and grow? We've looked at it a little bit. Obviously, I mean, AI, if you think about it, it's been around for several years, but it's still relatively in its infancy, right? The tools keep growing, they keep evolving, new functionality. Claude's the big thing right now. Tomorrow, there may be the next new big thing, and they're just going to keep one-upping each other. So I think continuing to evolve with it, I think continuing to look at business process, continuing to look at expenses, and continuing to look at new avenues. What else can we do? Like I said, we're constantly meeting internally, like what is the next thing we want to do? What is the next, usually annual, like every year we're launching some new product or some new offering. And even using AI to do some of that research, some of that market research, and some of that, again, basically just some of that research to try to determine, is this viable, is it not? What is our competition? What is our competition doing? Obviously AI is not the end all be all truth. You still need to verify the information, but it saves hours of time of Googling and looking at websites, and I can kind of focus in on what I'm doing. So I think just continuing to look to see what the competition's doing, continuing to see what the market's doing, continuing to see even what states and governments are doing as regulation, right? A lot of this is being driven by requirements, government regulation. A great example was the Damar Hamilton incident where he had the cardiac arrest on the field, and they saved him using a defibrillator. And then suddenly New York and a number of states started passing new laws that youth sports have to have AEDs and youth sports. So they needed to drive demand for the services too through regulation, and staying on top of that is a big piece of that. And trying to, again, to keep up with all of that by yourself is very difficult.
Yeah, no, one of the use cases that I've been using is consolidating kind of the most important things for me to know on a daily basis to operate my business, and just have it be a 5-minute review that I read every morning, and it's consolidating and taking the key highlights across a variety of sources, right? Like really, really important. I think kind of connecting back to the competition aspect, I guess I'd be curious your advice. If you were like head of a company right now with a leadership team that lacked utilization of AI, you don't have somebody with this technological expertise, perhaps, what do you think are some of the most like pivotal next steps or parties they need to engage in order to make sure that they're keeping up with this curve, right? Is it learning within themselves? Is it hiring somebody internal? Is it working with a consulting company or some combination of these? What would you kind of recommend?
So in my day job, it's really interesting because, again, AI is a big thing with a lot of companies and a lot of folks, and they don't know where to begin, just like kind of like what you're talking about. And they don't have the expertise. So what I would recommend, especially if they can find a company that is into AI or digital transformation, because many of those teams are now driving AI. And what we like to do is have a conversation with the client, kind of tell them what AI is, because a lot of them don't understand it. Tell them there are different ways that it can help them, And then typically we bring their staff in too and just explain it to them because they don't know. And then we tell the staff, and this is what a consultant can help with, is go back, think about your everyday job, your everyday life here. What do you think that we could help you with this? How could these tools help you? Again, generating better emails, generating better marketing content, things like that. So give them some time to percolate it, grasp it, understand what it is that it can do, and then typically come back and have a round table and say, okay, what are the different areas that we can help you with? What are the different areas where you think this can help? And then start looking at specific tools and things to help them. But the key is the education part, because especially CEOs, right? A lot of CEOs, I keep hearing AI. I go out to lunch with my buddies at golf and they keep talking about AI. We've got to do this because everybody's talking about it. The CEOs don't understand it, right? Like, okay, we got to do it. I don't know what it is, but we got to do it because everybody else is talking about it. So
exactly.
Really what we find is a lot of people, they hear about it. They know you can go in and ask it things. They know, obviously, because of social media, you can generate silly pictures and videos and stuff like that. That's the extent of it. They don't understand the business aspect and how it can help them. So educating them, saying, look, these tools can do all these things for you. Go back and think about how it could help you. And then obviously we come back and discuss it. And obviously with guardrails in place, right? It's really important that we don't leak information. We don't drop PII out on the internet, right? Some of these public models learn from your data. So having that entire conversation, and that's really where a consultant can help because they understand the risks involved.
Yeah, no, understanding the risks is definitely key. But I think also like just focusing and prioritizing the opportunities, right? Like one of the things that we help people a lot out with at Evolvence is going in and actually looking at each part of their business and saying like, where is this going to drive the most impact so that we can actually start somewhere and move from the buzzword topic of AI to actually doing something about it, right? And providing something tangible that's going to drive like financial gain as soon as possible, or serious time saving is as soon as possible is really, I think, the key to starting that ball rolling for companies who have not started moving it yet. And to your point about training, I think and this is one thing that I'm even still thinking through, and I'd be curious your input. I think there's a huge difference between companies with, let's say, 50 plus employees and companies with 1 to 15 employees, right? If you have a very small, lean team, you can go in and do very like targeted AI, like workflow automation, and work one-on-one with somebody who can have a large on the margin impact of the whole business. But whereas you move to a company that's 50, 100 plus employees, I almost think you need to start a much more grassroots approach, and it has to start with bottom level employee upskilling and general knowledge on how to use basic tools to increase their just general efficiency before you can get into a targeted, whole 10-person work stream like automation process, because it's just not going to click with everybody, and those broken links in the chain are going to be too detrimental to progress. And then you re-enter that spiral of, I don't know how to use AI. What are we doing? How do we take advantage of this?
I definitely agree. And I think as part of that too, especially in the larger companies, you need to find that core group of people that are enthusiastic about it and make them the champions so that they can help drive it in the organization. Yeah.
Yes. Change management is going to be a huge topic and area of opportunity. It's not necessarily one that I think at Evolvence we're looking to play, and we're looking to work more with, smaller and on the lower side of medium-sized businesses, and kind of, have hope that we're working one-on-one with a champion who is executing most of that automation and executing most of the areas we hope AI can drive value in for their business. But it's definitely a thought for the macro level and perhaps expansion plans for us at Evolvence. Anyways, sorry, got stuck there because I have so many interests in that aspect of it. One thing that I'd like to talk with you about is how SETC looks to further progress using AI. So I guess I'm kind of just generally curious, like, what are some of the primary growth goals that you guys have right now, and how do you see AI fitting into that vision?
So again, as I mentioned, the training items, right, CPR, first aid, those types of things, they're not going away. They're required, especially in the healthcare space, for credentialing and all of those types of things. But the margins continue to shrink, right? Every year costs go up. Pricing, we can't keep raising prices because we'll price ourselves out of the market. So the margins keep getting slimmer and slimmer. It's never not going to be needed. So it's one of those necessary things. And that's why we said, hey, we need to differentiate. So our big focus right now in the growth area is on the consulting, more of the one-on-one approach, working with fire departments on their OSHA and health and safety training, and pieces like that. And really the subscription model. We're getting in front of a lot of clients and showing them the value and really custom tailoring these subscriptions. Again, given our size, it's hard to go out and knock on every door. So as part of that, we're using the AI and the automation to target market those types of markets, right? Industrial, chemical, mining, things like that. Our OSHA person that does a lot of our OSHA training is one person, right? She's the expert, so she can't be everywhere at once. So leveraging AI to help her out. One of the really neat things she's doing and that we're doing to differentiate is she's using an AI tool to build video presentations. If you've ever been on a presentation and trying to get all the key players in the room, it's nearly impossible. So then you have to do it 3 times. So what we've been doing is building video presentations where we can send it to the principal. They can share it with everybody else. They can watch it at their leisure and when they have time. And then we can meet to address everybody's questions. Nobody else in the market that I can see is doing that. And it impressed me when she did it. She just did it without even asking. And I was like, wow. And she's using an AI tool to do it. Some of the other parts that she's doing is some of the OSHA training can be online. We really push the in-person, person's in a seat, they're paying attention, we know who's taking the class, but we have customers that want the online training. They don't want people, they want them working during the day. So she's using AI tools to build out the online training components, right, for Moodle or one of these other LMS systems. Because again, she's one person and it would take a long time for her to just write this all out and create it. So that's really the push. We're working towards the health and safety market. I mean, honestly, the margins are there because it's consulting, right? It's an hourly thing. It's a subscription base, and continuing to grow that. The CPR is never going to go away, but it's sort of plateaued in a sense. So we're working towards that other piece.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, interesting. My next question was actually more about the delivery side and how a lot of the coaching and training owners that I've talked to have said that delivery isn't their problem. They're just trying to kind of get their schedule full. It seems almost you guys have a little bit of both. You're trying to grow and you're using AI for the growth side. But as you've grown, you've had to get creative with, okay, how do we use AI to grow efficiently and to be able to do the delivery successfully, through things like videos and using AI to make high quality, deliverables that are going to actually drive the client impact that, are close to equivalent to a in-person session. I guess, you talked a bit about going into different new areas and expanding the business. Could you talk a little bit more tangibly about like how AI has, played a role in facilitating this client growth and what the approach is there?
So using AI, again, with those tools, it's been very convenient to go in and look at a different market. Say we wanted to start doing home health aid training, as an example. It's something we've looked at because there's a need. Going in and saying, what is the market for this? What is the demand for this? Are there many open jobs in this area? And looking at the demographics of the area, right? Some areas have a lot of, senior living residences. They have the need for this. Other areas don't. And then even using AI to drill into things as simple as, who's the nurse administrator for this organization? And then getting a hold of them and, saying, hey, we can partner with you. You have a demand. There isn't enough training in the area. Let's partner together. Let's work with your staff. And even offering so much as, we'll interview these clients. We'll train them. We'll interview them for you to your standard. And then if you hire them, we'll even do their onboarding training for you. And kind of do that value add, but using the AI to do the market research, look at the different states, right? New York State's regulations are different than Massachusetts, than Vermont. And again, if I had to sit and just look at state statutes and Google all this stuff, you're talking, months and months and months of research, segmented down into maybe a month, and then being able to launch quicker.
Yeah. No, totally agree. It definitely helps you form the value proposition and identify who the customers are and where they're at, right? Like the nurse example that you gave was perfect for, there's a very specific way that you can target and get in contact with the people by using AI. And it can totally, you can use Claude to go on your internet browser and like look things up for you, right? So you can get down to that level of what is the actual touch point. Whereas, even just 2 or 3 months ago, it was, okay, I have a general feel for the customer archetype, right? Well, we've gone from archetype to individual person, and that's a huge opportunity there for leveraging AI. Kind of coming in on time here. I guess one last question for our listeners out here, for the leaders and founders in the coaching and training space who are listening to this. What would you say one final piece of advice is that you'd offer them about navigating this moment where AI is changing so rapidly, but yet, the human work they do is more important than ever?
I think, again, and it can be overwhelming, especially for a single business owner with all of the other things they're juggling, is to just take it slow, right? AI is not going anywhere. I think it's the future. I think it can force multiply, as I mentioned, especially with a single business owner or a small business. And just take it slow. Start with a model, start looking at things. There's a lot of great websites with tutorials and prompts, right? Here's some suggested prompts. Go in and try the system, and just take it slow, all right? I think the future is going to be AI. I think it's going to be a huge help in business, but it can get overwhelming very quickly. So don't get frustrated. Don't get discouraged. Just step by step. Take it step by step. Like I said, there's plenty of resources. I mean, AI can even help you navigate AI. And that's
Yeah, exactly.
And there's a lot of good training out there too. I know Microsoft has like clip training, just basic stuff, right? How to use Copilot, how to do some prompts, and just build on that. And I think eventually, just step by step and learning it, it doesn't become as overwhelming, and they can grow with it.
Yep. No, I like that. So start somewhere, start slow, and choose a starting point that is in line with what your current business activities are in terms of kind of the platform that you choose to go with, or the Copilot versus the ChatGPT, right? Making decisions like that, just start close to where your business is, and that's a very important first step, and then it's just training and evolution from there.
Yes.
Well, this has been awesome. Fantastic conversation. Ryan, where can our listeners go if they want to learn more about your company or get in touch with you and your team?
They can go to our website at www.strategicetc, like etc., strategicetc.com, or they can call us at 518-722-0090.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Ryan. It's been a pleasure. For everyone tuning in, if today's conversation resonated with you, please share it with somebody in your network who's leading a coaching and training company or is just passionate about the value they provide. And we will see you next time on the Evolution Podcast. Ryan, thank you again so much.
Thank you.
All right. If today's conversation resonated with you and you're looking to learn how business leaders are driving value using AI, make sure to hit subscribe. Feel free to check out our other episodes, and I've also left my LinkedIn in the description below, so you're welcome to connect, and I will see you next time.